They tried to hide this story for years. Every time someone came close to connecting the dots, the trail went cold. But now the truth is leaking out, and it changes everything for XRP. What has been revealed is not wild speculation. It is the missing piece that explains why the biggest institutions in the world have quietly built their future on Ripple's technology. A leak from inside a major financial institution exposed details that were never meant for the public. And once you understand it, you will see why XRP is not just another cryptocurrency, but the backbone of a financial revolution already underway. While most people are distracted by price swings and headlines, the real money, the old money, has been preparing behind closed doors. This is not theory, it is infrastructure. It is banks, payment corridors, liquidity hubs, and a completely new system for global settlement that is faster, cheaper, and immune to the slow bureaucracy of the current system. The reason this leak matters is because it confirms what we have been saying for years. XRP was never designed to compete with Bitcoin or Ethereum. It was designed to replace SWIFT, to move trillions of dollars daily with instant settlement and microscopic fees. The leak came from a private meeting summary shared between a consortium of banks testing cross-border settlement using RippleNet. Buried in the notes was a line mentioning ODL activation across multiple jurisdictions. That is Ripple's on-demand liquidity, powered entirely by XRP. When you see that term inside a bank document, you know it is real. The document also referenced testing for sovereign asset integration. That is code for central bank digital currencies. In other words, they are not just using Ripple for commercial transfers. They are experimenting with national-level money flows. Think about that for a moment. While retail investors debate whether XRP will hit $1 or 10, central banks are testing how to move billions using it as a bridge asset. This is what insiders never wanted revealed, because once the public understands that Ripple has been sitting at the same table as BIS, IMF, and World Bank advisors, the narrative changes forever. XRP stops being a speculative coin and becomes an inevitable part of the financial reset. The man who leaked this information was part of a regulatory task group, and what he revealed was not just paperwork, it was a timeline. He claimed that between 2025 and 2027, full-scale cross-border integration of RippleNet could begin under a neutral liquidity layer, a phrase designed to avoid directly naming XRP. But we know what that means. Ripple has spent years building that neutral layer, and every partnership announcement from Santander to Bank of America was another piece of that puzzle. This is not hype, it is strategy, quiet and consistent, long-term alignment with every pillar of the financial world. The SEC case was never a setback, it was a filter. It shook out weak hands, forced Ripple to become transparent, and positioned XRP as the only digital asset with legal clarity in the United States. While other crypto projects are still fighting to define their status, XRP already has the green light. The settlement with the SEC did not kill momentum, it accelerated it. Institutions that were waiting on the sidelines finally have legal cover to step in, and that is exactly what they are doing. Behind the scenes, liquidity testing has expanded from pilot corridors to active corridors. The Philippines, Mexico, Japan, Singapore, these are not random markets. They are strategic test beds for scaling global liquidity. When you connect those dots, the picture becomes clear. Ripple is not building a product. It is building a replacement for the outdated system that runs the world's money. The leaker even hinted that one of the largest custodial banks in the United States, possibly BNY Mellon, had already developed internal mechanisms for XRP custody, pending regulatory approval. If that is true, then XRP custody is not coming. It is already here. Once banks hold XRP directly, price becomes a function of utility rather than speculation. You will stop seeing wild volatility and start seeing steady institutional demand. That is how assets evolve from risky to essential. The market will shift, and those who ignored the signs will be too late. XRP is not meant for traders. It is meant for infrastructure. The leak also mentioned something else, a communication blackout period, a coordinated phase where information flow between financial institutions would be deliberately slowed to prevent public overreaction during system transitions. In plain English, they will switch the system live before we even realize it has happened. This is why you keep hearing about the flip of a switch. It is not a meme, it is an operational process. Ripple's technology allows instant activation once agreements are finalized. One day you will wake up and see headlines about a new cross-border settlement system going live, and buried in the details will be XRP quietly powering the rails. The reason this leak matters now is because it confirms that phase 1 of integration, liquidity corridor testing, is complete. Phase 2, institutional custody and regulatory harmonization, is happening right now. And Phase 3, the final stage, is what they are preparing for behind the curtain, global settlement standardization. That is the moment everything changes. Every central bank using its own digital currency, but all of them interoperable through one neutral bridge. That bridge is XRP. The leaked notes even hinted at collaboration with ISO 2022 migration schedules. And if you know your research, you know XRP is one of the only ISO 20022 compliant digital assets in existence. That is not luck, that is architecture. Ripple designed it this way from the start, to fit seamlessly into the system being built around it. Those who truly understand XRP do not panic when the price stays low, because it is not a meme coin. It is infrastructure in disguise. Every major payment standard in the world is aligning to the same framework, and Ripple is already there. So when people laugh and say XRP is boring, they miss the point. It is not supposed to be exciting, it is supposed to be invisible, like plumbing. You never think about it until the entire system depends on it. That is where XRP is headed, a global liquidity layer hidden in plain sight. A global liquidity layer hidden in plain sight, woven quietly through compliance frameworks and pilot programs that most investors never even read about. Because while headlines chase hype, the real transformation happens in white papers, conference minutes, and technical integrations buried deep inside financial reports. Ripple has not stopped for a moment. Its on-demand liquidity corridors now connect dozens of countries through regulated partners, such as Tranglo, SBI Holdings, and MoneyGram's successor networks. Each corridor is a live test of instant settlement across borders, replacing multi-day wire transfers with transactions that clear in seconds. If you trace those corridors on a map, they form a clear pattern that covers Southeast Asia, the Middle East, Europe, and Latin America, the exact regions identified by the International Monetary Fund as highest priority for cross-border digital payments. None of this is coincidence. Ripple has spent years aligning its technology with the standards that central banks are adopting. ISO 2022 for messaging, full compliance with the Financial Action Task Force travel rule, and the emerging frameworks for digital currency interoperability. These are not rumors. They are written in public documentation from the Bank for International Settlements, which has repeatedly highlighted the need for neutral bridge assets that can connect national digital currencies. Ripple is one of the few companies openly building that bridge. In 2023, the company joined pilots with the Central Bank of Montenegro, the Royal Monetary Authority of Bhutan, and later partnered with Colombia's Banco de la República to explore blockchain solutions for cross-border payments. Each pilot tested Ripple's technology in controlled environments, proving that instant settlement using digital tokens could operate within legal banking rails. When those results are folded into international policy discussions, it becomes clear why insiders stay quiet, because adoption is not a future event, but a process already underway. Regulators have also been setting the stage. The SEC and Ripple ruling in 2023 gave XRP partial clarity in the United States by classifying programmatic sales as non-securities. That decision did not just end a lawsuit, it opened the door for institutions to finally explore XRP without regulatory fog. In Europe, the MiCA regulation has created a passport framework for crypto assets, and Ripple was among the first to prepare licensing under it. Every region is converging on clearer definitions, exactly what a scalable and compliant liquidity asset requires. This is the quiet phase before visible adoption. Institutions move slowly by design. They test, they audit, and they document every standard. But once a process meets compliance and proves liquidity efficiency, integration scales fast. That is why Ripple's focus has shifted from retail exchanges to enterprise gateways. Each partnership, from Bitstamp to SBI Remit to Tranglo, adds liquidity depth and makes XRP less speculative and more utilitarian. When liquidity deepens, price discovery matures. It is the same evolution that happened when the internet moved from dial-up to fiber. People stopped noticing the cables and simply expected connection to work. The deeper secret is not about one leak or one document, it is about timing. Ripple's roadmap aligns almost perfectly with the global migration to ISO 2022 messaging, scheduled to complete by 2026. That standard underpins the communication layer for banks and payment systems worldwide. Once everyone speaks the same digital language, assets that are already compliant gain a head start. XRP fits naturally into that ecosystem. It is designed for low-cost, high-volume settlement and can bridge any currency, whether fiat, stablecoin, or central bank digital currency. When regulators finish setting the guardrails, institutions will be able to activate liquidity corridors globally with minimal friction. The result will appear sudden to outsiders, but it will simply be the final step in years of groundwork. Perspective is everything. Many traders chase daily charts, but the people building this system are thinking in decades. They are creating a foundation for global money movement that will not need intermediaries. Ripple has positioned itself at the intersection of policy and innovation, meeting with central banks, publishing technical frameworks, and shaping discussions about interoperability. It is not conspiracy, it is coordination. The world's payment rails are being rebuilt in real time, and XRP is one of the few digital assets engineered for that purpose. When someone says he leaked major XRP secrets, what they really mean is that the dots are finally connecting in public view. The data, the pilots, the compliance work, it is all there for anyone who looks closely. The quiet approach is not malicious secrecy. It is operational discretion while trillion-dollar institutions modernize the plumbing of finance. For those who understand this shift, every headline about regulation or settlement is not noise. It is confirmation that the future infrastructure of money is almost ready. As that future unfolds, XRP's story will stop being about speculation and start being about utility. Not everyone will see it coming, but those who study the clues and understand that adoption happens quietly before it becomes obvious will recognize this moment for what it is, the calm before activation. Ripple is not waiting for permission. It is building within the rules, linking the old system to the new one corridor at a time. When cross-border settlement becomes as fast as sending a message, the world will look back and realize that what seemed like leaks were really previews of inevitability, because the truth about XRP has never been hidden. It has simply been unfolding in plain sight.